Our communication is inevitably through words, which are recorded as verbal knowledge. This type of knowledge does not create a change in the essential psyche of man. It is only direct perception that causes change. To have that direct perception by reading a book requires a high level of sympathetic reading. But it is only in dialogues in small groups where a matter can be delved into deeply, the inherent objections of the subconscious mind can be answered. And then there is the direct perception of the answer with, "Oh, I now see." In that is the discovery of the new. This is the essential difference in the listening to spiritual teaching and the listening to everyday communication. The building block of communication is the word. We may say that the word could be a symbol, a pointer, a model, or a verbal conditioning. A symbol represents that which is symbolized. For example, a cross represents Jesus. The word Om represents the ultimate for the Hindus. The name of a person is a symbol. It is unique for that person. In communication, both the speaker and listener must attribute the same symbolized to a symbol. Only then there will be understanding. A word could be a pointer to something unique which the speaker wants to point out to. For example, the table in front of you could be referred to by pointing and saying that table. It is unique and listener can see it directly. If instead of that table the speaker says just table, then this word is a generalization of the particular. Such generalization may be called a model. It has no particular attributes or characteristics. The listener understands what is being referred to by the word. Models could be more complicated than just a word like table. Science model is a complex model. We do not have to ask whether the model is real. We do not have to know the complexity of the model. Most of the words which we use in daily life are models where we know enough to use them for our purpose. A higher level of detail is not required by the average user. Using a dictionary, one can get a definition or understanding of such words. Example, an electron or quark is a particle which cannot be seen, but different type of measurements show that it exists with certain properties. For the average user of these words, knowledge of a couple of properties is enough. But the physicist has to know a lot more. So models are pragmatic for our daily use and require only that knowledge that you need for your purpose. Words or ideas may act as a conditioning of our behavior. By repeated action of the same type, we develop a habit of that action. That starts from the verbal idea of what we want to achieve. For example, we want to achieve a sense of being charitable, and we practice various actions which demonstrate our sense of charity. There is clarity and no confusion when we use a word for pointing something in the objective world. It is there for us to see. What about subjective feeling? How shall we give a name for that feeling and share the word with the listener? For example, one can say, "I have pain in the shoulder. Your friend understands and will sympathize with you. But the doctor will want to know more about it and ask you searching questions so that he can make conclusions for the purpose of treatment. Spiritual teaching has everything to do with subjective feelings. It cannot be pointed out just like an object. Nevertheless, the teacher attempts to point out, but the actual seeing of that which is pointed out is done by you. The teacher cannot do it for you. As there are a number of words which are pointers, there must be a level of care that you have understood what the teacher is saying. Science may use words mostly technical whose content we do not know. We can either ignore them completely or study a little bit about it from a book. In a sense, it's not something that is going to change your life. The modern enlightened ones are extremely careful in the choice of words. They had experience beyond the normal. Example, what is this instant of time? What is eternal? In the teachings, they may refer to these matters, but state clearly that the reader or listener will not understand. So just do not be concerned with such matters. They say you will automatically know when the time comes. Krishnaji would say, I have discovered something which cannot be put into words, yet I want to convey to you so that you may try to reach that. They are quite aware that use word as a pointer and the listener cannot see that which is pointed to will cause the listener to create a mental structure of that which is pointed out to. Such mental structure will prevent him from seeing the true. So in the teachings, you will not come across any words which you have not seen yourself. This is an important quality of the modern teachers. I think this arises because they lecture to large audiences. But in small discussions, they do go into the nature of experience which they have had, but others have not. The teaching given of the older religions like Christianity, Islam and Hinduism do contain words which are pointers about which we have just the faintest idea. And based on such idea, we build detailed models. In ancient days, they were not particular that the teachings be understood with a level of detail. Instead, the teaching was given so that a pattern of action could be followed. The words soul, heaven, hell, day of judgment, and God are such words. It is said we do not have to know what all these mean. It is enough if we lead a right mode of living based on the above ideas. So these are practical models because they help us conduct our life. We should not ask whether these models represent the real, just like we do not ask whether the scientific model is the real. It is said if you have sinned, then on the day of judgment, God will show you his wrath and you will be sent to hell where there is pain all the time. People believed these statements and so avoided sin. Society was more orderly because of this belief. That was sufficient reason and not whether any of these models were real or not. In modern days, these ideas are rejected as having no factual or evidentiary basis. Western philosophers, scientists, and the enlightened ones do not refer to these models. But the verbal conditioning passed on of soul, God, heaven, from generation to generation, over the last 3 years with constant repetition, have taken reality which is not questioned. the soul, God, heaven, etc., are believed to actually exist, even though there's no direct perception of any of them. It has taken on faith. These beliefs arose during periods when there was no science. It took a lot of suffering for people to accept that the earth was not the center of the universe. Equally, it's a lot of work for people to accept the theory of evolution. Human nature is comfortable with the old and cannot give it up. What will a Christian with this faith do with the teachings of Krishnaji, who says, with empathy, put away the past teaching, observe yourself without judgment. You need no other teacher. Selfishness and ego will end naturally as a result of this awareness. Can such a mind practice this teaching? In one Upanishad, teacher says, the truth is beyond the known and beyond the unknown. We do not know how to teach it. That was the condition of mankind 3,000 years ago. So it may be that various enlightened ones of the past came to the conclusion that it was better to teach right action rather than the truth that liberates. The Hindu spiritual teachings were to be given only to qualified students, to the select few, and it was considered a secret. It was to be taught by a teacher who knew. There were just a few pages of each Upanishad which has been interpreted by people who have no direct experience of the truth. No wonder the explanation is mangled. So it makes sense to forget the old teachings and study the new ones. But there is a vast vested interest in the continuation of the old teachings. But mankind has evolved, has become more intelligent, more aware, more responsible, so can understand this path. And that path, a totally new path for modern man, is explained by Krishnaji. But our minds are so closed that we refuse to believe that we have evolved and that the ancient teachings do not apply to us anymore. But let me present to you the new teaching.